Good evening and welcome to Sipping Sarcasm. Finally came up with a name. I believe this is episode 5. It's been almost a week since my last video. I believe it was the 8th. So yeah, it's been about a week or so. Anyway, this episode, as you can see, I've got on a lot of Lone Star stuff. And there's a reason for that. The dad of a good friend of mine passed away on Monday. He was not from Texas, but he loved Lone Star beer. He wasn't even from the United States. And we'll get into that in a little story that I've told a few times, and it's very special to me. We had a great time with him. Heard tons about him for years, and finally met him a few years back, and we broke bread together. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Because it is dedicated to him, I decided to go with the big beer. He liked big beers. He liked dark beers. He liked what I liked, and we shared quite a few. And so the beer that I chose is from Back Pew. Back Pew is a Houston-based, let me see if I can do this right, Houston-based brewery up in North Houston. This is Aybara, if I'm pronouncing that right, Aybara, kind of like capybara. Imperial Stout, 8.7% alcohol, 25 IBUs, which is fairly light to me for a stout. It's an oatmeal stout, so that may have something to do with it. See if there's anything cool in here. They've got you can see there, anvil with fire. Pretty cool looking can. It's not gloss, it's most of it's flat. All right, let's haven't had anything to eat and drink in a couple hours, so my palate's pretty clean. Let's see here. Oh, tons of oatmeal. Tons and tons and tons of oatmeal. Let's see if we can pull this in closer here. So y'all can see it right there. Getting, again, kind of a candy flavored. We talked about the Werther's previous. This has a totally different, almost slightly burnt. Smells great though. Head dissipated pretty quickly. Let's give it a try. Initially, a little more bitter than I would normally think 25 IBUs would come across in a stout. I thought with the oatmeal, much like the milks, stouts, to me, tend to be a little on the lighter side, if you will. They're not light, they're just not as bitter. Pretty good though. So story time. My friend Kurt Land, we met. He's from Taiwan. His parents are of Chinese descent. Kurt moved here in, it was 99, 2000-ish. He'll correct me if I'm wrong. We met when I was first getting into the hotel business. Long story short, after a few months, we really hit it off. Kurt had talked about living in Taiwan and kind of seeing all the American culture, George Strait. He had some family and friends that lived in Texas. His dad would come over, and his dad really enjoyed Lone Star beer. One of my favorite light beers. Not really a light beer, but American lager. And me and Kurt just kind of hit it off. At that time, I was young, 25, 26, and was going out to country and western bars, dancing. At work, I don't know if anybody remembers the riatas, but we wore or I wore riatas to working at the front desk of the hotel. Kurt liked that look. He always told me how he idolized kind of the country and western lifestyle. Had moved to Northeast Texas for a couple of years and then moved down to Houston where we met. Went back to Taiwan a couple of times, and I was never really in the financial position to go out there. Heard cool things about it. Fast forward, Kurt moved to West Houston, bought a house out there, got a degree, met a girl, got married, had Connor, their son. When Connor was 3 or 4 months old, I think, his parents were coming into town from Taiwan to see their new grandbaby, and invited me over. Kurt's parents wanted to know where we wanted to go out to eat, and he asked, would we rather go out to eat or eat his mom's food? And I'm like, I'm not passing up on the opportunity to eat somebody else's food, be it in the United States or abroad. And being that they were Mandarin and Chinese, I love Chinese food, but I don't think I've really ever had it. So that's what we opted for. She made this cucumber, and I don't like cucumbers, this cucumber salad and this chicken dish, and it was just out of this world. Absolutely loved it. Kurt's parents had been back and forth to the United States quite a few times, and Mr. Land had, as I mentioned earlier, had grown to have an affinity for Lone Star beer, which I thought was hilarious. Kurt always kind of, like I said, idolized the country and western lifestyle, if you will. And it was, I know several times when Mr. Land and Ms. Land came back that I think they went to the rodeo, and Kurt taking him to Cavender's and got him a cowboy hat and stuff like that, and boots and whatnot. But anyway, that night, Kurt's dad had brought some rice liquor, not rice wine or sake, but rice liquor that we did these tiny little, kind of like shots, but it's more about sipping it than anything and enjoying it, and it was different. Enjoyed it. I also brought some big beers because he liked stouts, he liked porters, he liked the bigger beers, even though he drank Lone Star. I'm kind of the same way. And never knew that this hat and this shirt matched. That's a lot. So anyway, we were drinking the rice wine and eating, and Kurt's mother would make tea in this little pot, and while we were drinking, she was making us drink tea. I assumed to try to keep us sober, put things in our system that wasn't rice liquor and heavy imperial beers. So as night went on, we talked a lot. Kurt's dad spoke more English than his mom, but Kurt did a lot of translating to clear things up. But there was times that me and Mr. Land were left at the table, and so like I said, Kurt and Crystal, Kurt's wife, had Connor at the time, and he wasn't 3 or 4 months old, seems like. And so, Kurt's a pretty hands-on guy on everything he does, and so he had to step himself away from the table quite a few times to help with Connor. And me and his dad talked. We understood each other. It was surreal at times. Miss Land decided that it was time for us to stop drinking. It was getting late. It's probably 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And so Mr. Land got up from the table, cleaned the teapot, started wrapping it up, and gave it to me. And I really didn't understand what was going on. And Kurt said, "My dad wants you to have the family teapot." And I'm like, What? What do you mean?" And he said, "It's just a gift of thanks from our family." And I didn't really understand, and I accept it, and I appreciate it more than anything that I own or have. I know that sounds weird, but it's just, I come to understand that it was a wedding gift to Mr. and Mrs. Land on their wedding day. And I asked some questions, and it was the friendship that me and Kurt had grown over the years, and some of the trials and tribulations we had been through and helped each other through, that Mr. Land felt like he wanted to say thank you. And it was hands down, and I think, like I said on my personal Facebook today, was outside of the birth of my daughter, it was hands down one of the best experiences I've ever had. And breaking bread with somebody and sitting down and talking, and not letting all the bullshit of this world get in the way, and just enjoying the moment, the libations, the food, everything without pretense or anything else, is, over the years I've found, that is one of the best things you can do for your friends, for your family, is just those little moments. And I started this channel on a whim, I guess, if you will. Didn't know where it was going to take me. Still don't know where it's going to take me, because it hasn't taken me anywhere yet. But I've done some thinking in the last week while I was trying to set up a better environment for recording and everything, and figuring out a name, and talking with my number one production engineer who helps me with everything, and talking to my best friend, girlfriend, trying to figure out some things and how things should be, and naming it, and going through all of that, and putting all of this, all my stories, not really this, but my stories down, so Avery has something she can see when I'm not here. And I don't expect that to be anytime soon. I'm definitely not going to make it anytime soon if it's up to me. I like what I'm doing. I like being here. I like doing this. I like talking to y'all. I like the concept of all this. And so that day I think about a lot since it happened. I think it's been almost 10 years. And but I remember sitting in the truck driving home in the passenger seat, just writing what I felt and the experience that I had with Mr. and Mrs. Land and Kurt and Crystal and Connor. And it was awesome. And so I dedicate this whole episode to Mr. Land. He passed away on Monday. Me and Kurt have had quite a few discussions this week, obviously. I lost my dad the day after Christmas about 10 years ago. Another best friend of mine, Jason, lost his. It's coming up on 2 years. And, losing a dad, regardless, losing a parent, grandparent, it all sucks. But remembering the joy that they brought you, the experiences you had, the Thanksgivings, the Christmases, the birthdays, the Hanukkahs, the Boxing Day, whatever you celebrate. I think that's the best thing you can do for those that are past. And I still have some of my grandfather's voicemails and stuff like that I kept while he was still alive, and I kept him on purpose because I wanted my grandmother too. I have videos of my grandmother and Jackson doing upholstery, and it's sometimes being in the moment and taking the time to look and experience and sit back and go, this is awesome. This is awesome. What's happening right now. And if you do that as much as you can, I think it makes everything better. I don't know if it makes his world better, but it might make your world better. I want to end off with a quote that Avery scribbled down when she was like, I don't know, 8 or 9, maybe 10. And she kept writing it down. I kept finding it on Post-it notes. And it's a tattoo that I'm going to get soon. I've got 2 or 3 that I want to get. I've got the Avery Grace there, and I've got some more real estate under here for her. But the quote is, shine bright like you do. I Googled the quote and couldn't find it anywhere. It came from Avery. And I think that's how I end this, is she was 8, 9, 10, early, young when she wrote that. Shine bright like you do. It doesn't matter what anybody else does. From me and everybody at Sipping Sarcasm that's making it a success right now, cheers.